Okay, round two. I'm going to show you all now how to actually stretch the canvas. So for this, again, you'll need your staple gun. You'll need your canvas pliers to be able to stretch the canvas. And again, it's not a bad idea to have a hammer to give a little extra persuasion to those staples that stick out a little bit. I'm going to explain the pattern to you before we actually do it. But generally speaking, what you will do is put a staple on one side with no tension. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go across the way and you will add tension here. So no tension, then you're going to add tension with the canvas pliers. Then you'll do the same thing over here. No tension, then add tension with the canvas pliers to put a staple in. Then what you do is you move in an alternating pattern. Like after you've done this one and this one, you're going to go here and then here. So you'll do here and then, obviously staple here, stretch here, staple here, stretch here. Kind of keep alternating. And the pattern is once you start to do, you'll go on either side. So after here, you'll do one here and then one here. And then you do one here, one here, one here, one here, one here. Kind of alternating to get even tension throughout. So I just want to kind of explain that philosophy of how to do this first. As I'm doing it, it'll make more sense, okay? So first thing I'm going to do is just kind of make sure your canvas is flat. There's kind of two sides to it. There's a side where it looks like it's got a little bit more dimensional texture, and it just looks a little bit brighter to me. The other side, it looks a little flatter, and it looks dull by comparison, right? This looks a little brighter. That looks a little duller. This side is a little bit more smooth. This side's a little more textural. Put the textural side out. Then you're going to make sure you want to have your ridges, your raised quarter round, facing down. So this will be the back. The flat side is on the back. Now you'll notice we've got about an extra, what I like to do is like 3 or 4 fingers width extra on either side so that we have enough canvas to pull. If it only went up to here, that's not enough canvas to pull and then also staple. So we want to make sure we've got it even here and it's nice and flat. And we got it kind of even along the edge, okay? So next step will be to start, pull one side up. It doesn't have to be tight. You're going to staple. Now, if that didn't go all the way in, boom, you can hammer it flush like so. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this around. And on this side, I'm going to stretch. This takes a little bit of finessing and practice, but you'll eventually get better at it. What you want to do is take the canvas pliers in one hand, and fold this over and hit this divot right here on the edge of the wood here. So you're kind of going like this. And as you do that, it kind of pulls the canvas this way. And then when it wraps around, it pulls it ever so tight. You can see how this creates a line right there because it pulls it a little bit more tight. Now it doesn't have to be super tight like a drum, but you want it to pull a little bit to stretch it. That's why we call this stretching a canvas. So I'm going to pull this with one hand, like so, and then with the other hand, I'm going to give it a little staple there. Still holding it, tap it down. Now I'm going to do the same on the other side. Here, first putting a staple in flat, and then spin it around, like so. And then this side gets tension. If it's easier to do it with your dominant hand and then switch, that works. I kind of just start doing it without necessarily explaining it. And my staple gun keeps messing up. I don't know what's up with that. Always wants to do that during a demo, just to slow things down a little bit, doesn't it? Staple gun, little bit of pressure, boom. Now the next place we're going to go is kind of back to start, and we're going to go on either side. Remember, we're going to kind of work back and forth, and kind of just keep going. So it's not all this side and then all that side. That's really important. When you get to this point, it should kind of look like a kite, because this is real loose here, but it's kind of tight in the center. After you've done a couple of these, it'll give you this kind of diamond-like kite pattern. So I'm going to not stretch, give it a little staple, turn it around, and about 2 fingers apart, or about 2 inches, take this. I'm going to start with my dominant hand here, and then pull. And make sure you can actually kind of see it stretch. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right here. This is the not stretch side, turn it around and stretch it about 2 inches away. Sometimes your stapler doesn't work, but that's okay. We're all right. This is a nice process. Takes a little bit of time, but not that long. Sometimes when I'm doing this, I like to do this in kind of stages. So if I have a big exhibition coming up, I want to have enough time, 3 months, 6 months in advance, and I could stretch all my canvases one day. I could build my frames one day, and then the next day or a few days later, you know, miter them, glue them together. Hopefully your staple gun works better than mine. Flip it, pull it. Then always go back to this side, not pulling. Rotate it, pull it on the opposing side. Like so. I'm going to go back over here. Not stretch, but making sure it's flat. Then I'm going to stretch on this side. One thing that I didn't mention is I got this canvas in town here in Batesville, which is pretty rad. Marshall's is a fabric wholesaler, and they have a roll of this stuff that you can buy there for like $3 a yard, y'all. That would produce a lot of canvases for just $3. And the wood itself is just a couple of bucks for the wood. So instead of going to Hobby Lobby and buying one canvas for $9, you can, with $9, make 4 or 5, right? So it really is a value. And it's really nice to have it as a resource. If you were to order this online, it would not be $3 a yard. It would be $15 or $20 a yard because they sell things wholesale, which is pretty awesome. Oops, I did that wrong. Remember, I always want to stretch on the opposite side. So kind of alternate, stretch, not stretch. Pull this. We're getting close to the edge here. I'll probably stop there. You want to, on the short sides, you want to stop about a hand's width away from the corner, and I'll show you how to finish this in a minute. You can always check to make sure how this is looking. This is looking really nice. Sometimes you might have a little bit of puckering, and you can correct that actually by getting the canvas wet and pulling a little bit to get rid of any puckering, but this looks pretty good. Sounds good. So I'm going to stop about a hand's width away, but obviously I have more to put in over here, so I'm going to do that. I used to really like this stapler. It's really not being nice to me today. So this side, just keep it flat. This side, flip it and do the tension. And then we are about a hand's width away from the edge. So now I'm going to show you next how to do corners. Basically what you do is you're going to want to smooth this out so it's a nice 45 on the end, like that. You pull the excess in, and then what you can do is you can mark that corner with your thumb. So a lot of people do this different ways. I love the way that this looks. Now some people will do this. They'll pull, they'll staple, and they'll do like that, and you can see this on the edge. I prefer to hide that. It's basically the same thing. It'll give you the same look here and a nice flat edge, but I like to hide this on the inside. So what you do is basically just pull this extra fabric, so it'll give you a 45 angle across here like that, creates this little triangle, And then with your thumb, you make sure this is smooth here. With your thumb, kind of pulling this flat here, you just do a nice edge here. And then basically what you do is you put that on the inside. So where that 45-degree angle was is now on the inside. You move this up, pull it tight, and look at that. Basically what we've done now, isn't that a nice, really sexy edge there? And we can pull this when we staple it so we don't have that puckered up, and we got a really nice edge. So when people see the side of your canvas, they see really flat, flush edge. When you go to gesso this, leave the edges gessoed. Don't paint on the corners. Some people like to paint on the corners. Now, if that's part of the painting, you could certainly do that. But I think it tends to look a little bit hokey. And then also, if you ever had an issue and you needed to take this apart and then re-stretch it, if you've gessoed the side or painted the side, you're not going to be able to re-stretch it. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to pull this, and we can always use this to assist us. That whole operation, of course it would help if I do it the right way. Take this and just snugly pull. You don't need to use pressure on the edge. And then staple this flat. Like so. I'm going to do that to all 4 corners. And that will finish out my operation here. So you want to keep the angle on the same side. So you do the same way here. You make your nice triangle, 45-degree angle. Pulling that nice and smooth here. And then burnish down the corner. You open that up and you drop the 45 on the inside, pulling that tight, and voila, you have a nice, sexy 45-degree angle. Everything's hidden on the inside. Doesn't that look great? I love the way that that looks. Again, if you have any puckering here, what you can do is you can get this a little bit wet with a paper towel or a sponge and pull that, and it'll get rid of any puckering. We can take this and just pull with your hand with a pretty good amount of pressure to do that, or grab with the canvas pliers, staple that flat. And you'll notice these are on the same side. Sometimes people will mess up and they'll put the fold this side and the fold on this side, but it looks better, I think, when they're facing the same direction. Same thing, 45-degree angle. This one's off a little bit. 45-degree angle. Burnish it down so you know where it's at. Burnish the corner. And then pull that on the inside. Kind of pull this tight. Either pull it real good with hand pressure or use canvas pliers. So that way your corners aren't less tight than the rest of the canvas. You want it tight like a tiger on all sides. And I think I'm out of staples. So I'm going to finish this. But the next step that I want you to do is to gesso this with a brush, a foam brush, put gesso everywhere, and do 2 coats. 2 coats of gesso. Paint a layer on, let that dry about an hour, and then do another layer of gesso, and then boom, you're going to be in business, ready to rock out and paint your masterpiece. I want y'all to consider the amount of time that it took me to make all of these wood stretcher bars, because I love y'all. Peace. You're in my hearts. So think about the time that it took me to make this. Think about the time that it's going to take you to stretch this canvas. It's a little bit of an investment, no pressure. So I expect a masterpiece on this, right? It's not like, oh, I just bought a canvas, I can just do whatever on it. No, this has got a lot of TLC in this. So make sure you rock out and do a really nice painting on this. So 2 layers of gesso, and then you're ready to go. Peace. Miss y'all.